Hello, fight fans. Mike of Fights with Friends here, and I am bringing you my first ever lock of the month. I've never done this before. This is a bet that I am betting on specifically, and it is a bet that I consider such a lock that I am actually advising you that if you're going to bet on fights this month, I think this is your absolute best option in the combat game. It's a fight that I have spent an extensive amount of time on. So if you like what I do here and you want more of these picks, make sure and hit that subscribe button so you're notified whenever I drop a new video. Not just these locks of the month, but when I break down an entire card, which I will be posting the main card on this later if you're interested in the rest of my picks and analysis. Also, make sure and you ring that bell so you're notified whenever I post a new video or go live, like I will be for a Fight Companion, interactive Fight Companion this Saturday. And let's talk about the fight at hand. It's going to be Rob Font versus John Lineker. The lines have moved a little bit since I put my bet down. Not extensively, but a decent amount. This is a rematch from May of 2016. Rob Font, 31 years old, 16-4, out of Boston, Massachusetts. He comes in a plus 180 underdog coming into this fight. And one of the first things that I look at after, of course, I watch these guys' first fight, because I feel it is still relevant even 3 years later. And then some of their recent fights, I say, what have you done for me lately? Rob Font, 3 years is a long time. Since then, he has went 4-2. He finished Thomas Almeida by knockout. Second round guillotine submission of Douglas Silva de Andrade. During that time, also finished Matt Schnell. His only two losses was a submission loss, the first of his career by submission to a stud, Pedro Munoz. And then he went the distance, almost consider a moral victory, just less than a year ago against one of the very top contenders of the division, Rafael Asuncao. So Rob Font has had a great account for himself, in my opinion, over the last 3 years since their first fight. He is 31 years old now, 3 years later. Let's move to John Hands of Stone Lineker. These lines have moved definitely somewhat since I first bet on this. Let's talk about the first fight. I watched this fight several times, and John Lineker wins it by unanimous decision. He is a minus 230 favorite. These odds have moved a decent amount since I placed my bet, but make sure and go out there and shop your bets, guys. Some sites that I look at, 5 Dimes, betonline.ag, and of course DraftKings. There's a lot of other choices out there, though. Make sure and get the best odds that you can before placing your bet. Lineker, 2 years younger than the first match, and then let's talk about the very first match. After we look at what Lineker has done over the last 3 years. He is coming off a split decision loss against Corey Sandhagen. A fight of the night that a lot of us have been looking forward to. Us fight geeks that really study this, we've been looking forward to that fight for a very, very long time. It did not disappoint. There was some argument over who won that fight. The most important thing, though, is that it was extremely competitive. Lineker, like Rob Font, has went 4-2 over the last 3 years. His only 2 losses were that close decision to Corey Sandhagen, and then he went the distance with the king of EPO, former champion TJ Dillashaw. Victories over that time, dude got a split decision victory over John Dodson. This is when John Dodson was in his prime, right there around the #1 contender 3 years ago. Got a knockout victory over Brian Kelleher. That guy is, of course, an absolute stud. Also knocked out Michael McDonald in those 3 years. Went the distance with Marlon Vera, one of the very top contenders in that division. So it has been a productive 3 years for the winner of that first fight, John Lineker, who comes into this. It was closer to a 2-1 favorite. I actually picked up Lineker at -194. So I'll tell you, that's where I went with that one. I did bet the underdog on this one, 194, and I put up around $170 to bring home just over 300. I think it was somewhere around $320. To me, that is worth it. If you're looking for something a little richer, if you're really confident in another bet, maybe put together some kind of parlay. But I'll leave that up to you. This is my lock of the month, and let me go into why it is my lock of the month. So I went back and watched their first fight from 3 years ago several times. Not only did John Lineker win that match, he won every round on the scorecards. He won every round in everyone's mind. Not only did he win every round, he won every minute of every round. Lineker was so dominant and shut down Rob Font with such success that I would argue I really have to look back to find one exchange in 15 minutes that Rob Font won. If Rob Font has a kryptonite, I think John Lineker is a very, very good candidate. And if you can find him anywhere around 2-1, if you're going to bet on something, that would definitely be my pick. I really don't see any scenarios that John Lineker loses this fight. I went back and watched some of the fights. I watched all of them. Some of them I watched bits and pieces of their last 6 fights. But what I came away with is Rob Font and John Lineker are pretty much doing the same things that they were 3 years ago. Next thing I looked at was, is age going to play a factor 3 years later? Well, Font, the underdog in this one, lost the last match. He's 2 years older. He's 31 years old. Lineker just 29, and I don't see any signs of slowing down. Really not for either one of these guys. But Lineker's 2 years younger, so even the age advantage, it's at least an even or probably goes to Lineker. So that's how I came upon this. I just think John Lineker, it is my lock of the month, my first ever lock of the month. I did a lot of research, like I said, and I'm about as confident in these picks as I have been in any fight in a very long time. Make sure and hit that subscribe button if you're new here, because I am going to post all my picks for the main card coming up here very quickly for this Saturday. And then you'll get all my locks of the month. I may also have like a bet of the week. It won't be a lock. It won't be the same. And then breakdowns for main cards. Also, I will go live with Fight Companions, interactive Fight Companions with MMA trivia for basically every major UFC, Bellator, and boxing event. And then every Tuesday, we do combat trivia. It's MMA and boxing trivia. And right now, for the next 9 weeks, we'll be going live at 5 p.m. Pacific, because we're also covering Dana White Contender Series. I want to know, what do you guys think, though? What do you guys think about my lock of the month? Is this something that really interests you? I want to know, have you put bets out there already for this card or for cards coming up? Does this persuade you in any way to look at those bets or to maybe bet on a fight that you wouldn't have in the past? Maybe you take this bet and you parlay it with something that you were already confident in. That's not my advice. I'm happy, I'm happy winning the money on 2-1 on Lineker. I just think it's that great of a lock. But I want to know what your guys' bets are, what you think of my advice, and I also want to get your advice down there in the comments. It helps me to think about fights critically. It's also something we could talk about in future videos, in future streams, and let's start that dialogue in the comments so we can help other viewers and subscribers in the community. Maybe you've seen something that I didn't see or somebody else doesn't see. Maybe it helps them make some money. And at the end of the day, I would like nothing more, first of all, than to entertain you. Second of all, to make you some money. So I hope you like this new series. As always, I love you. I respect you. And I'll see your finances later.